Hey, what's happening, everybody? Today's date is Wednesday, March 25th, 2015. Usually I don't start a video off with a date, but I did today because today is a pretty special day for me. Today would have been my dad's 65th birthday if he would have still been here. And, you know, this being that his birthday, I've been reflecting a lot about him, thinking a lot, and I wanted to share a few things with you all. One insight I've come up with that I think was pretty profound for me, and I share this with you all in hopes that maybe it can get you to look at some of your experiences in life differently. And that is this: my dad was not the best dad. He was definitely not the best dad. He screwed up, he fucked up, he messed up, he made mistakes, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. There's a lot of things he didn't do, quote unquote, right. But because he wasn't the best dad, it made him the best dad for me. Okay, let me say that again. My dad wasn't the best dad. He wasn't the textbook dad. He wasn't the dad that, was jumping up out of bed and always made time to play and, came to all the school performances or any of those types of things. That wasn't him. But it made him the best dad for me. My dad wasn't the best dad, but he was the best dad for me. And here's where I'm going with this. So much of who I am today, just like so much of who you are right now, comes from what you learned as a child and how you chose to interpret the events, what you've made of it, how the perspective you've taken on it, all those things. All of your experiences that you've had have gone into you and have helped create who you are now. I wouldn't be who I am now if I didn't have my dad. You see, my dad, whether he intentionally meant to or not, he taught me a lot of things. I can remember times as a kid trying to get my dad to play games with me. And he didn't, because he would want to watch football or NASCAR or something on the weekend. And that's, as a kid, I didn't understand that he's an adult, he should have his own time. I was thinking, well, Dad, it's all supposed to be all about me. My dad wanted to have his own stuff. As an adult now, I don't really watch TV. I don't really use my phone around friends. The reason is because I've learned to value so much how important it is to be present for the people you're around. I don't know if I would have learned that without my dad. My dad was not the best about saying, I love you, or giving cards on birthdays or anything like that. He was really bad at it. And in fact, I got to the point where I almost resented him for it. I don't know how much of that was my decision or how much of it was based off of his and my mom's relationship. There's a little bit of both mixed in there, and I can't go back in time and reevaluate it now and say, well, this much is me and this much might be my mom's influence. I do know my dad wasn't the best. He wasn't always the best at doing those things. He'd get up on Christmas morning, he wasn't thrilled about Santa Claus coming or anything like that. That's just who he was. Now, as a kid, I didn't understand that. When I think it was around my 24th or 25th birthday, I remember being really upset because my dad had sent me a card. And I thought to myself, why is he sending me this card now? Why is he sending me this birthday card now? I was there, I was around for 18 years, and it didn't seem like he made a lot of effort to send these cards. Why send it now? And so I remember tearing it up, throwing it away, and being angry and pissed off about it. I hear something really interesting. Ever since I moved away from my parents' house to go to school and to create my own life, I've saved virtually every single card I've ever been given. Christmas card, birthday card, and so on and so forth. When I moved in Santa Barbara in 2007, or when was it, 2008, there was a huge fire and I thought my house was going to burn up. One of the only things I grabbed was this bag of cards I've saved, because it really means a lot to me that people would take the time to share their feelings like that and to write the card to me. So I had torn this card up and thrown it away. The day after my dad died, I had gone up to his office up in Northern California to start cleaning his stuff out, and I was going through his computer, and I came across this file. I clicked on it, opened it, and the thing that popped up was the birthday card that he had sent me. I started sobbing uncontrollably because I realized at that moment how much of my perception of my father had dictated my relationship with him. You see, I didn't see as a kid, I wasn't willing to see that my dad that wasn't his thing. Some people are great at sending cards, some people are fantastic about remembering birthdays, and some people are awful. Does it mean they love us any more or less? Not necessarily. And just because we're great at remembering dates doesn't mean they're going to be. And if we're judging them for that, we should look in the mirror and look at ourselves and see what that says about ourselves, that we're putting somebody down for not being able to do something as well as we can. And so I'm sobbing because in that moment I had this realization that my dad, that was not something he was good at. He was not naturally a card writer or an I love you teller or anything like that. So the fact that he made the effort to go on the computer, type it out, come up with the graphics, all those things, and he made the effort to make it himself and to send it off to me, it meant so much more than somebody who's just naturally good at it. Because those of us who are naturally good at it, we don't have to work at it as hard, right? It seems like it comes to us with ease. It seems it comes with us with ease. Yet for somebody who's not that good at it, they have to work really hard. They have to work really hard to develop the skill to do it. And so the fact that my dad loved me enough to do that, that spoke volumes. And I cried for an hour probably straight because I realized I had missed out on so much on my dad. I missed out on so much on getting to know my dad because I allowed my perception of him to be so not favorable. My dad was not the best dad, but he was the best dad for me because he was him. And there's life lessons that he sprinkled along the way that I didn't even realize were there. And now that he's gone, I've had the chance to go back and re-look at things and see them from a different perspective. I'm not going to be that person who's going to overly romanticize somebody when they're gone. I can admit that somebody has their flaws and somebody has their weaknesses. And I hope to God that when I'm not here and people are talking about me when I'm gone, they're going to be able to say the same thing. They're going to say, yeah, he was this, he was that. And you know, he was also this and that. He wasn't perfect. I don't want to be perfect. I don't want to be perfect by any means. And my dad wasn't that either. My dad wasn't that either. I can remember back in 2007 when I went through my first heartbreak. And that was the one that inspired the book, Ouch, My Heart Is Broken. And I remember having this conversation with my dad on the phone. And my dad and I, we hadn't really had a lot of heart-to-heart conversations at that time. You know, I didn't feel like he made the effort when I was at home. And then as an adult, I had withdrawn. And so I had reached out because I was in such a desperate place. I was so sad and just so consumed with grief. And I was talking to my dad about it, telling him, and my dad, I'll never forget this. He's talking to me, and he's on the other end of the line, and he's quiet for a second, and he says, Jess, you're the best person I know. And I remember just crying. Because I knew my dad meant it. I knew he meant it, and he said it in such a heartfelt way. And I was thinking, you know, my dad hasn't said these things before. And my dad wasn't the best dad, but he's the best dad for me because he was willing to step up to the plate when it counted. Whether directly or indirectly, he's willing to step up to the plate when it counted. Sometimes our parents don't always know what to do in every situation. Let's remember, our parents were once children too. Our parents went through the same process that we did. Sometimes our parents don't always have the answers. Sometimes our parents want to throw their hands up in the air and scream and yell and rip their hair out because they don't know what to do. You're growing up, you're changing, you're evolving, you have your own challenges in life, and they have their own too. They don't have the answers for all their challenges, and so they certainly may not have all the answers for yours. Our parents are not God, even though sometimes as kids we may think it. That's not their fault, that's ours, because of how we choose to view them. And again, saying it's our fault, that's too harsh of a word, because we don't know any different. We're raised that way, and that's who we see. We see it as a source of our love. We see it as a source as our food, our nurturing, everything else. Our parents may not always be the best parents, but I believe that they are the best parents for us. Because they have given you a lifetime of lessons to learn that have brought you to right where you are today. And whether you like where you are today or you don't, they have given you the tools, the resources, the energy, the fire, the fuel to use to change, to make a difference, to evolve, to whatever you want to do if you decide to tap into what they've given you. People have gone through horribly traumatic times in life, who had parents who were abusive and all sorts of things. Horrible, horrible things. What have they taught you from that? What gift might they have given you? Perhaps your parents were not the best parents, but they're the best parents for you because of how they treated you. It deepened your resolve to be an even better parent for your kids. Maybe it gave you the fire to become an advocate for abused children. Would you have had that fire if you hadn't have had your parents? I don't know. I know that I wouldn't have had some of the fire and the passion I have in my life if my dad wasn't my dad. When I came home the day my dad had died, I got home late at night and I drove up there in complete silence, cried the whole way. And it's about an 8.5 hour drive without traffic from Santa Barbara to where I grew up. The next day, I went to see him in the funeral home, and I hadn't seen my dad for almost over 2 years because I hadn't gone home the prior year. The year prior was when my friend had killed himself. My girlfriend at the time had left me. I was in such a not happy place that I needed to get away and try to clear my head. And so instead of going home to see my parents for Christmas, I chose to go and do something for myself. Neither one of them said anything. They were both supportive of it. And I went with the assumption that, my parents are immortal. They're never going to die. They're always going to be here. They'll always be here whenever I get back. And so when my mom called me in the morning of February 1st, 2010 to tell me that my father was dead, I didn't believe it at first. How could he be? He's my dad. He's not supposed to die. So when I got home on the night of February 1st, 2010, the next morning, February 2nd, I went to the funeral home to see my dad. And they brought him out there, and he was there, and he was still, and he looked like my dad. His hair was combed back. He had some clothes on that my dad would wear. But he was so cold. He was so cold, there was no breath. There was no movement, there was no life. And I thought to myself, how is this possible? How is my dad not going to be here? How's my dad not going to be around to see me get married? How's my dad not going to be around to talk about what adventures I do? I'd never had a beer with my dad. I'd never smoked a cigar with my dad. I'd never done a lot of those things that people do with their dads. I missed out because of how I chose to perceive him in my life. And so I was thinking to myself, what's my dad's legacy? What's his legacy? What does he mean to people? What did his life mean? Did it matter? I was racking my brain with this, thinking about all these things. And as I started to talk to his friends, and they tell me about how much he meant to them, about how positive he was, how upbeat he always was, how he was always had the best attitude. And I thought to myself, I don't remember that as a kid. Do I not remember it because I didn't experience it? Or do I not remember it because I chose not to see it? I don't know. I can't remember everything from my past. And even if I did, my judgment's going to be clouded because of my own perceptions of life now. But I know that I lived that time, and it's completely possible that I may have missed some things with my dad. So my dad in death had taught me something really powerful about giving people the benefit of the doubt. That there's two sides to every coin, and that I may have only been seeing the one I wanted to see, or the one I thought I was supposed to see. My dad wasn't the best dad, but he's the best dad for me. As I sat there and was crying and looking at my dad, and I was talking to his best friend who was there, and I was going through this whole thing in my life, and I really started to think about legacy. And that was when I first started to think about what it meant to live on when somebody we love is gone. I want to end this video by reminding you all of something I've shared with you before. I firmly, with all my heart, believe that how you choose to live your life after someone you've loved is gone is ultimately how you're going to honor them. Their legacy will always live on through you, so you get to decide what that legacy is. You live an extraordinary life, they have an extraordinary legacy. You settle for less than average, and average is whatever that is for you, they're going to have a less than average legacy in your life. Your parents were the best parents for you. They may not have been the best parents, but they were the best parents for you because whatever they did, whatever they taught you, better or worse, it brought you to exactly where you are today. And where you are today is a platform for an opportunity to create whatever you want going forward in life. I miss my dad dearly, and there's so much I wish I could talk to him about. I wish I could have this conversation with him instead of talking with you all about it. And that's no disrespect. I love you all, and I appreciate all of you taking the time to watch this video. It's just right now I feel a little selfish because I miss my dad, and I'd love to be sitting here having this talk with him, and to thank him personally for all that he's taught me, and to ask for his forgiveness for some of my stubbornness, my short-sightedness, and my lack of understanding, my lack of compassion, and my inability to see the other side of the coin when I was younger. I share this with you all too because I hope that if you have parents still that are alive, that maybe this video will speak to you and help you to reach out to them, possibly make amends, maybe try to see another side of the coin, perhaps forgive, perhaps allow yourself some perspective, and a little bit of gratitude for them giving you the experiences that you've had that you can use, if you decide to do whatever you want with your life from this point on. Guys, thanks so much for listening. I know this video is a little longer than they usually are. If you stayed to the end, I really, really appreciate it. I didn't know what I was going to say today, and I did my best to try to keep a conscious train of thought and the emotions under control. So I appreciate you humoring me, and I appreciate you listening. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching and sharing and everything else. And if this video spoke to you, if you felt that you learned something from it, you gained an insight from it, please share it. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to think. And again, from my heart, I hope that you can use my experience to make your experience even better. I'll talk to you all soon.